RGC Podcast.
Hello, Rio Grande City, and welcome to the RGC Podcast.
My name is Becky Rubio,
And I'm Melinda Gomez.
and we're joined by
Joel Villarreal, Mayor of the great city of Rio Grande City.
It's awesome to have you here today, Mayor, and thank you for coming by. We just want to sit down with you and have a conversation and just, have you tell us a little bit about yourself and let Rio Grande City know more about their mayor.
Absolutely. Certainly look forward to this conversation by all means. And congratulations on starting this initiative, which I'm sure is going to be a hit, no doubt.
We hope. We definitely
No,
hope.
it will be a hit. It's going to happen.
Yes.
We're going to take it to unprecedented levels like we've done everything else here at the city. Always looking for that bigger and better concept, right?
Yeah, just growing and growing.
So, one question that I would like to ask you is, how did you first get interested in public service?
Back in early 2000, actually, no, it's more like 2007, 2008, started with the planning and zoning. I was chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission here in Rio Grande City, and also the Building Standards and Renewal Board, which we're looking at, of course, dilapidated buildings. And how do we start that, in a sense, getting rid of some of these buildings or upholding more standards? Really, it comes down to that, because as a municipality, you need to have codes. And prior to us becoming a city, of course, Rio Grande City, we had some issues with codes, for example, because let's say people would build in flood areas without taking into consideration, is there proper drainage, is there not, lighting, and so on. So that was the initiative started at that point back in 2000. I want to say 2007, 2008. And of course, it's holding our community to higher standards in reference to developments, which now, fast forward to today, definitely our standards is something that we need to always keep in mind as far as codes, going back to drainage, proper lighting, making sure that any new development has and meet certain standards above and beyond. And that's one of the things we're going to continue to do. But and I digress, by the way, so please keep me on track. If not, I'm going to go in different directions. But at that point, then back in 2015, or a little bit before that, actually, Mayor Joel Villarreal resigned. And then there was an opening for that unexpired term. And at that point, I had already been serving for several years as a chairperson for Planning and Zoning Commission and Building Standards and Renewals, and then decided to throw the name in the hat at that point. And well, it was a great experience. And it's one of the things about experiencing new things, and definitely throwing the name in the hat for a mayorship. Glad we did that. And fast forward to today. Now here we are, several years later. But it's part of that, establishing a legacy, wanting to make a difference in your community. And by then, it's already here in Rio Grande City for going out to 30 years in Rio Grande City. And it's been a great experience. And certainly, in fact, one of the things that I would recommend to anybody wanting to seek public office is, first and foremost, visit with your family, because it's important that family, they have to be on board with.
I was about to ask,
absolutely.
how did your family feel about it?
Well, and they're the first ones that I talked to, right? And my wife and at that time, my wife and my son. Yeah, my son was young. But nonetheless, it takes a toll on family when it comes to politics. And there's the good, the bad, and ugly and everything. But the experience has been phenomenal. But absolutely, you need to have, first and foremost, family, a blessing, family, right? Because they're going to be impacted by the service as mayor. And at that point, we're on, and to this day, we're still on board. And we've done a lot of great things. To this point.
Yes. The city has grown quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And just going back to your family just for a bit, I've seen your son. I used to be a band director I was the color guard instructor, and I saw him when he was a freshman up to now, and I feel like I've seen growth from him too. Like he's embracing it. He volunteers, and your wife, I see Miss Monique out there too, and just like doing bike riding in the trails and everything with you. It just looks like he's kind of grown into it too,
It
in a good
is.
way.
Yeah, and I'm glad because my wife has always volunteered. In fact, she served as an EDC board director before I became mayor, and she's always served the community. And that's something that we've instilled in our son too. It's like giving back to our community, volunteering, and it's great when you have individuals throughout our community that volunteer their time because that's the only way to be effective as a community to bring even more services, more improving the quality of life when individuals are willing to give back in some way, shape, or form. And especially young kids, so I love to see when we had that Easter function not too long ago. I had quite a bit of kids, and also for the rain dash, we had
Oh
some
yeah.
volunteers there too. And it's wonderful to see. So going back, yes, he has embraced it, and in fact, the trails are wonderful. That's another thing that I love. I do love to get out there and do the trails. Of course, got to be careful because some of those are challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns and let's say 45-degree angles in some cases. Those drops, but it's been wonderful. So yes. I'm glad that he's been embracing that and service, service to others. And which goes back to the same concept that they were willing to do that and allow us the opportunity to venture into the mayorship role, which has been exciting, has been exceptional, has been learning experience too. And I'm glad that we're at this position.
What do you see as one of the biggest challenges that faces our city today?
Right now, it truly has been.
And how are we working to address them?
I know,
Sorry,
right?
I was like,
I
let
know.
me finish that real quick.
The growing, we are in a position where we are growing out of our seams, which is great. But at the same time, we need to make sure we plan for as far as traffic, planning to make sure we have enough of everything, including safety and security, which comes with more coverage as an area, more services, and we all know, especially smaller municipalities, we don't have the financial resources that larger municipalities might enjoy. So we have to make ends meet, right? And safety and security, having law enforcement, firefighters, or staff, and having to make sure that we have enough that staff to accommodate for the expanding city and growth and services that come along with it. But we're at this point, I'm glad that we have wonderful staff in Rio Grande City that see that vision. They're wanting to grow with us and wanting to expand and give back to our community in a sense because providing these services, we're providing opportunities for individuals to want to come back, to live, to work, and to forge that American dream here in Rio Grande City. And I wholeheartedly believe in that. And slowly we're getting there. And so the challenge is providing enough water for everyone and water pressure, those things that are part of a growing municipality. But we have to make sure that we're planning not just for tomorrow, but for the next 20, 30, 40 years, which when I leave this position is moving on the torch to someone else. Because at the end, we all know that it's one of those moments where we serve and then at some point there'll be the next generation. So you hope that you leave this a better place for someone else to take on that torch and create even next to the next every commission. And I truly believe in this, where you build upon each other. So we build based on what was previously done. And then the next generation will build on what we've done thus far and take us to the next level. And you hope that that's the case, right? And leave everything in place for that, which we are. And we are in an excellent position. It's incredible where we're at today compared to, keep this in mind, 1993. That's when, Rio Grande City is not that old. Considering
younger than me. I was born in 91.
But we are in an exceptional position where we're at today compared to where we were not too long ago. And it's exciting because you see that and you hear it from people outside of our area. In fact, yesterday I was at a meeting out in West Loco where we had the mayors from the whole Rio Grande Valley planning for an economic summit, and there's conversations about what's happening in everybody's community, and people know what's happening here because word spreads, right? And even more so to have this type of podcast, and that continues to grow that, right? So it's exciting times for all of us
Yeah.
and our residents, of course, community that we serve.
What do you see for the future for Rio Grande City?
Wow. It is, well, let's start off. For example, the St. Ives development. Well, you know what? The St. Ives development, that is transformative. And we're still in the first phase. We just started the second phase of it, which the first phase, you're looking at restaurants. Next phase is a retail. And then the light industrial and hotel hospitality there, which there should be construction very soon. That development, within the next 5 to 6 years, it will be fully complete. The same thing with warehousing and cold storage. We are getting warehousing and cold storage in preparation for this whole concept of nearshoring, meaning that the U.S. is going to slowly start getting away from the China concept, where we're depending so much on China, but we'll be moving more towards Mexico, Canada, and Central America, which means that we're going to have a lot of traffic through this area, trade and commerce coming through our ports of entry. In fact, our small bridge here, two-lane bridge, you're talking about $1 billion a year in trade that comes through this bridge. Over $1 billion. Now, that's going to go even further. And of course, once we establish the routes here and of course the warehousing, cold storage, that's only going to up which goes back to the traffic and managing traffic through our area too, right? The medical residency program. In fact, our medical residency program here in Rio Grande City, it's another transformative development. It's going to transform a region for generations to come, not just Rio Grande City, but La Luis, Juarez, Roma, Mexico, Zapata. They'll be visiting this center because you're looking at 45 acres of medical development, including the research and orthopedics and a portion of the medical residency program in a small rural community in South Texas. I mean, to have something like this, it's one of the few in the nation of, of a population this size. And in fact, the first cohort begins July 2024. We're going to have the first cohort of medical residents here in Rio Grande City in 2024. And it is affiliated with A&M, Texas A&M University. So it's wonderful, again, for our community to, going back to some of the challenges, is having serving and the needs of the community, particularly in medical. We're going to slowly, we're getting to the point where the majority of our medical needs will be serviced here in Rio Grande City or Stark County, not necessarily have to go elsewhere. So that medical development is huge. That and that's one of the things that we still haven't publicized it that much,
Right.
but this is huge for our community, for our county, when you're looking at a medical residency program in a small rural community, and it's one of the few in the nation. Typically, this you see in larger municipalities with 500,000 people or 1 million people, or over 200 and some 50,000 people. So we're in a good place. So I mean, there's just so much going on, and it's great to be part of this.
Yeah.
It's exciting. But we all had something to do with it. It's a collective effort of multiple individuals and entities making this happen. But I always believe in that concept that if you roll in the same direction, you're going to have that mutual, that common goal, that mutual direction, and what's greater good for the community. At the end of the day, you're going to roll in in the same direction and get things done.
Right. Right. And then I think, like, going back to the medical development, I mean, that's going to help so many people. Like, I have to take my grandmother to McAllen or to Brownsville, or my grandfather to the VA in Harlingen or McAllen. And we even have, like, the VA coming with the van here to Rio once a week to, like, service our community here. So that would even help and alleviate those.
That is, you hit the nail on the head there, because now you have these services that can be provided here locally and not have to make a trip elsewhere. Plus, having easy access here and having at some point the the specialized services, even more specialized as we continue to grow it. And it's happening. It's happening right before our very eyes. And you cannot drive anywhere in Rio Grande City without seeing youth growth. It's happening. It's right. And but again, it's an effort of so many people and entities, organizations, and the private and public sectors coming together for something. And it's all connected, and every facet has something to do with it. Whether it's the medical community, the educational community, the legal community as well, and you go down the list, government, because for example, the school district, they went out for some bonds and are building as well, the auditorium, performing arts center, and the same thing with the medical community is expanding, and our business community is growing. And in fact, we're in an excellent place. When you're considering where we're at today, it's an amazing time to be living here, and then only for the future, because the idea is that eventually you have more people wanting to come back and have the resources here, have the jobs here too, and that way they can come back and live here and stay here and buy their houses and contribute to the economy, and but just connecting the dots.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Like this is our home, and we need to help it thrive.
Make it better, and we can. The point is that we have a lot to offer. When you consider what we have to offer here, it's incredible. I mean, you're looking at Stark County is becoming a premier energy powerhouse. You're looking at millions of dollars in wind and solar power, looking at two international bridges, billions of dollars in trade in every conceivable commodity and service, destination anywhere USA. And then you continue with our safety and security. We have a very safe community. When you're looking at our binational, bicultural, bilingual identity that serves as our strength, we have a strong and young workforce. As I was mentioning, our business community keeps expanding. Our medical community, same thing. And then our educational, we have South Texas College, we have UTRGV here, and now this medical development, and when you're looking at the cost of living is below the national average here as well. So you add all those factors, and then plus have easy access to a ranch if you want to go and ranching, let's say, and then at the same time have the historic appeal here, have beautiful historical buildings, and then plus the modern amenities as well. So in a sense, you can be out here 5 minutes, you're at a ranch, in 5 minutes you're back in town. You want to visit historical buildings, here they are. If you want more modern amenities, they're going to be there too, and they already are. So in a sense, it's best of both worlds.
Best of all worlds, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yes, there's so much that we have to offer, and I'm glad that we're in this position, and it's exciting.
Okay. Well, Mayor, you've made our job very easy.
Yeah.
Let me add something else.
Yes,
go ahead.
For example, when you're looking at, you mentioned about when I first became mayor, that was back in 2015. And at that time, actually inherited a negative budget of $389,000. So we were at $389,000 in the hole, in a sense. We were insolvent, meaning that, of course, that it's hard to repay our own debts. And where we're at today it's a night and day when you're considering, and of course at that time having to tighten the belt and having to readjust how monies are spent and so on. Slowly we've been to the point where we're at today, our fiscal responsibilities, and kudos to our commission for being strong fiduciaries, and absolutely you need to make sure the finances are in the up and up for purposes of grants and so on, right? Your finances have to be in a good position, and we are. When you're considering where we were in 2015, not too long ago, to where we're at today, 7, 8 years later, now looking at our fund balance, best in the history of Rio Grande City. When you're considering sales tax revenues, best in the history of Rio Grande City. I mean, our assets best in the history of Rio Grande City. So when you're looking at our financial profile today compared to 2015, which is not too long ago, I mean, it's an exceptional story of growth and prosperity and making sure that we're all on the same page to be in the position we're at today. Even, this year, for example, January, historical high for sales tax revenues. This January, February this year, same thing. March of this year, same thing, historical highs. April of this year, historical high, and I anticipate this May being the same thing. Why? Because we're in a position where all the planning is finally coming to fruition and paying off, and it's a great story to tell. I mean, keep in mind that, for example, the whole paradigm shift of we have to look at things differently. Why not? Why can't we have all these amenities? Why can we not have a medical residency program here? And then it's possible. Why not? Well, let's make it happen. How do we make it happen? The same concept with, and I bring up the story with Starbucks because it symbolizes a paradigm shift of how people thought, and some people, not everyone. The idea that we could not afford to have a Starbucks here, that nobody would come in and buy coffee here in Rio Grande City for some reason, or it was too expensive, or whatever. The stories were there's no
Yeah,
way a
yeah.
Starbucks would make it.
Right.
I've gotten remarks from people that are from here, but they don't live here, and they're surprised that
The
wow, you have a
Starbucks? You have a
Starbucks.
Chick-fil-A? Yeah.
Exactly, and it's kind of like, well, why not? Like we're a growing community, and these are things that our community look for, um, so that way they don't have to drive out, just
Exactly.
for that.
And exactly the point, which first day sales, first week sales, exceptional. I mean, they did better than some markets that have larger populations. And to do that here, that only shows the power of individuals and the spending power and people wanting to have those things too. So, and you go there and there's all lines of, but it only symbolizes, it kind of encapsulates the symbolism behind that. It's much more than just the Starbucks, right? It's the concept that why can't we have these good things here, right? And people are willing to support them. Same thing with our marshals, for example. Marshals is doing exceptionally well, and you're having people from Monterrey coming to this marshals here in Rio Grande City because it avoids them a trip all the way to McAllen. Which, of course, the idea is to eventually bring that other retail stores that will be coming here once it's official.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm glad
So
that you said that too, because I think there's just so much, like there's so many misconceptions, like, well, we need more things and we need this and right, like we're getting there. Like it's not something that we can just boom, it's all there. It's like a plant, like you have to plant the seed, put the water in, and I think that's what we're doing.
well, it's strategic, right? And
Right.
the idea that every move is strategic. You have to lay the infrastructure first and foremost. Are you going to have enough water and pressure for all this development?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to invest, and we have invested millions of dollars in infrastructure in the last few years to support and sustain all these developments, right? Because if you don't have it, then so it's been a work in progress. And then, well, for example, the retail, I mean, the restaurants first. Okay, so you do the restaurants, and now the next phase, which will be the retail and the hospitality and the light industrial. But it's all, as you mentioned, I mean, it's strategic. It's not just a, it's making, no, it takes planning, it takes time, it takes money, and the right combination of individuals that are willing to invest.
Exactly.
And that's going back to the public-private partnerships, where you have government entities getting together with the private sector and say, okay, what can we do to build, work, which is a perfect example of this medical development, a public-private partnership. The same thing with St. Ives, because the bottom line is one entity can't do it by themselves. I mean, it would be hard for us to develop anything simply by ourselves. What I mean by that is that we have to pool our resources and make things happen, whether it's through grant monies, whether it's through like USDA, EDA grants. Same thing with partnering up with the schools, for example, and all right, you know what, why don't we do this? Which has been the case. Same thing with the county, same thing with the hospital, same thing with whether it's the colleges, South Texas College or UTRGV, or the private sector, which in this case is the HR Health here with that new development. But it's all connected, and we're in an excellent position, and I cannot stress that enough. Where we were not too long ago, 2015, where we're at today, it's been phenomenal, and I can only see that going further. I mean, we're going downhill, in a sense, and we don't have any brakes on. We're just gonna take it, and I, just symbolism behind that.
Right.
But nonetheless, where we're gonna be, and then even 4 years from today, Rio Grande City, you're not gonna recognize Rio Grande City, and this is just short 4 years from today. Once that new medical development is up and running, and then the completion of St. Ives, and then the warehousing and cold storage, and I mean just those three, for example, and then go on with everything else. You're having a lot of development and new housing, and there's other opportunities that are coming as well that still working. There's always something new. It's like, okay, so we already did that. Okay, what's the next best thing? Okay, what else are we going to work on? And there's several others that once it's solidified, I mean, it's like solidified, it's going to be wow. So we are in an excellent position, and I cannot stress that enough. That short 4 years, that when people come in, they'll be wow, and as they already are, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
even more so, that old concept of just getting started type of thing, and we
You
are.
heard it here first, folks. We are. We're just getting started and we're growing. And going back to my plant analogy, it's like we're seeing the sprouts, we're seeing our first little flowers come out, and it's just the beginning. Like we have a whole garden to go.
Absolutely, and the garden is phenomenal. It's and the quality of life, and you touched up on that, is how do you make it all work, right? And it's all of us have something to do with it, all of us. And I'm talking about multiple entities, talking about individuals, volunteers,
Right.
private, public sector. And I stress that because it to build a community, it takes multiple organizations and people and entities to be where we're at today. And I'm just glad to be part of it, and that all of us are part of this, right? Because moving the city forward of our size, it's it's not as easy as it might seem, especially when you're considering what it takes. Because the idea that there are a lot of ideas. Ideas are just, in my view, ideas. Yes, they're great, and you need to have them. But also, how do you make those ideas come to fruition? How do you make it happen? Where are you going to get the funding? How are you going to connect that and make sure you don't put the city in a position where it's going to jeopardize them going forward? Because you need to have enough, because you never know. The whole concept with COVID, for example, fortunately, we were in a good place that we were able to sustain some of the hurt that occurred to all municipalities, and we were in a position where we could still sustain it, even though everything that came with it, as far as inflation, as far as the in some cases more expenses based on circumstances as far as the COVID. And I'm just glad that history will reflect that our community came through, and our community came through as champions. When you're looking at our medical community, we were at the brink of a total system medical collapse.
Yes.
We were
Right.
that
Yeah.
close. It doesn't seem like, but we were very close. And I'm just glad that we're able to go through. And our medical professionals, our community medical community, did an exceptional job, and along with community members that were willing to follow the protocols and procedures. And at the end, we got through it, and came together, and we even helped our friends from Mexico, where we vaccinated thousands of people here in Mexico. People were coming all the way from Monterrey to get vaccinated. Once we, of course, took care of our community, and then at that point we were in a position a generous position to be able to help
To,
out
yeah.
our
Yeah,
fellow man as well. And of course, they will forever be grateful of that. And who knows, down the road, we might need their help too.
exactly.
If we just we live in a community that is interdependent, symbiotic relationship with our friends and family from Mexico. And same thing with our neighbors like Ruiz, Juarez, Roma, Rio Grande City. We're all interconnected, and what happens in one community can affect and has the potential to affect others. So, in a sense, I believe in that concept of collaboration with all their friends and neighbors here in Stark County, but also in Mexico.
And the medical facility will benefit everybody, like including everybody in Escobares, Roma, even Zapata.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Zapata, even Western Hidalgo
Yeah.
end up here. And part of that too is keep in mind that the first cohort, you're looking at 8 medical residents. These are already doctors, right?
Hmm.
Coming into your community. And you're looking at 60% of residents will end up locate or relocating to that within the 30-mile radius, which means that hopefully a lot of these doctors will end up staying here too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because we need to make sure we grow our own, and recruitment of doctors is critical. And why? Because you need to have medical professionals in your communities. So that serves of a dual function there too. Yes, you have this
Right.
program, you have all these services, but at the same time, you have an opportunity to have some of these doctors stay here in our area. In a sense, it's a form of recruitment, and so I mean, even if it's one per year that, that you're able to
Right.
recruit, it prolongs that idea that we have all these medical services here too and afford it, as opposed to having to go elsewhere. And going back to how do you make it attractive to stay in your community too? Well, you need to have the good schools, you need to have access, you need to have quality of life, you
Right.
need to have amenities there too. So it's all interconnected, and we've been able to focus on all facets of our city: the quality of life, the medical, the educational, the safety and security.
Right.
People want to live in safe communities, and we happen to be in a good position where we have it all in a sense.
Right.
Yes, there's a lot of work to be done, and got to recognize the fact that we have a lot of work to do. And it never ends. It's never going to end, which is good because, in a sense, you're always having to pave streets. You're always going to have to focus on traffic and safety and issues that happen because, after all, you're going to have water break
Well,
lines,
yeah,
and you're
it's
going to
just
have a
maintenance because everybody's using all these or facilities or equipment or structures or infrastructure, and it just needs maintenance because we're a growing community, we're increasing members or people passing through, and that's just the everyday to everyday that a city has to manage.
exactly. And how do you make it all work? Which is
Yeah.
where you have wonderful staff to make that
Yeah.
happen day in, day out, and having that vision that, hey, we are servicing others. And in a sense, we're in the business of serving others. All of us serve somebody else at some
Right.
different capacity.
Right.
Whether you're a teacher, whether you're
Yeah.
a police officer, whether you're a manager of a business, I mean, you name it, you're servicing others because we're all interdependent on others and so on. Which is, in a sense, it makes the city grow, and it makes the city be a better place to live, to work, and again to live that American dream. And we are living in great times, and certainly laying the foundation for the next generations to move the city even further. Who knows where we're going to be in 40 years, 50 years? I won't be here, but nonetheless, the next generation, what are they going to bring to the table and look at Rio Grande City and say, wow, or Stark County as a
Right.
whole, and where we were and where we're at, where they're going to be at that point. And but it's possible. Right now, of course, we're working on the airport, so I want to see that airport expand down the road, where you see more planes coming in, landing, whether it's private jets or even the 727s at some point. So we need to expand that. but there's a lot of work to be done. But at the same time, it's rewarding because you're seeing the fruits of your labor right there in front of you for everyone to see and everyone to recognize that it's happening, which just have to drive, not even a few minutes and you're seeing it.
Right, right.
You're seeing it right before your very eyes. So I'm just again glad to be part of this growth and prosperity, and where we're at today. It's again incredible, and I cannot say that enough. I'm sure I've already repeated myself, but nonetheless, because it is, it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to live in a wonderful, thriving community. And yes, by the way, on the other, I would like to see more recreational here too, whether it's the bike trails or it's having access to the river, whether it's for just fishing. Yeah. And we are working with Mexico to help with security and safety on the other side as well. Of course, we were talking about previously of a golf course potentially here with walking trails and so on. So all that is a possibility, and it's just a great time. Opportunities are abound, and in fact, one of the themes, right, is that hey, we are growing, we're connected, we are expanding, we have all these opportunities, unlimited opportunities and potential is there, and the idea that all you need is one. Once you bring in one, okay, hey, you see what's happening, okay, the next one, and the next one.
Yeah.
It's
Before you know it, the snowball is growing.
it is, and hey, exciting times.
Thank
Awesome.
you. You were our first guests.
Yes, thank you for being our first guest.
Absolutely.
You are more than welcome to come back again.
Yeah.
This won't be our only
No, will not be our
episode.
last.
We'll be reaching out also to the commission and all our
Directors.
administrators and directors. And I mean, our city has so much information and activity that we want everyone to be aware of.
Yeah.
All the work that goes um, into the city, into the municipality, and all the people that work behind the scenes and in front of the scenes and behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and just to let people know that we're here to work for them.
I think that's important because, as we all know, there's some people that don't think we're working for them. But we're here. We're here. Like we really. This is our home. Like this is our home. We want to see it grow. We want to see it thrive, and we're trying. We're going. We're going.
No matter what, there's going to be criticism, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Criticism is fine. And in some cases, yes, there's some truth to it. Okay, so you get that information based on whatever the criticism is. And sometimes it's not, it's simply the easiest thing to do is tear anything down or tear any person down. It's how do you build that? How do you create it? How do you have constructive criticism in a sense? Okay, so you know what? We could do this better. Okay, how are you going to do it? Versus just to tear something down. So, I mean, but again, that's a dime a dozen in some cases. Others, it's very few. But nonetheless, the point is that it's good to have criticism by all means, and I'll accept it because there are some things we can do better. And but the good thing is that we're willing to, and we're gonna get there. We know we gotta pave new streets. I mean, because yes, it's gonna happen. Or work on water tanks. The only thing is, how do you coordinate it all to make sure that we fit all those needs? But it's just not. It might not be on the same year.
Right.
It's later for next year.
Process.
It's a process because we simply do not have. I mean, it's like even having your own home. There's times that you cannot do all. I mean, in one year, there's this year I'll go ahead and work on the fence. Next year might be a roof. Next year, and little by little you get there because there's no way you can afford an expense like that, especially considering you have all these other expenses as well. But the same thing with the city. So planning is critical. We need to strategize and plan to where this year we are able to focus on this. Next year we're going to be able to spend it more on this. All at the same time taking care of the employees too, because you cannot afford to lose employees either, right? So how do
Yes.
you find a way to make that happen too? And then again, the safety, security, and fire, and police, and streets, and lighting, and drainage, and the quality of life, and so. Uh, and that's part of the process where you have
Yeah.
to be a good planner, because if not, I mean, it's just not feasible to work on everything at the same time. And the needs are there. Needs, I mean, they're, again, a dime a dozen. There are needs. We all have needs. How do we start to satisfy certain needs and prioritize which ones benefits the community the most, and then you continue with that. So anyway, it's all in, and like I said, I can digress into many things.
We'll be here all day.
Absolutely.
Good. No.
There's just so much. It's you
There
know,
is.
in fact, when I have the prayer breakfast, mayor's prayer breakfast, and there's times that, just there's so much that is happening in Rio Grande City that I don't, of course, I can't talk about it all,
Right.
because there's just great things that are happening, and I would love to highlight it all, but like you said, we would be here all day,
Yeah.
But nonetheless, thank
I
you so much.
Thank you. I think this is great. Like, I feel like people will, hopefully our listeners will get a little bit more of a sense of how things kind of work in a municipality, and just know that the message they take away from this is that, like, we're working on it, we're coming, we're going, but it's a process, and just know that we're getting there. We're going to get there.
Talking about that, when we first St. Ives project, right?
Mhm.
And the first phase, we were talking about the restaurants, right?
Yes.
And of course, what are some of the comments? Pura comedera.
Yes. We
It's like,
need
hey,
more restaurants.
yes, the other, it's in phases. First phase is a restaurant,
Yes.
next is a retail. Just keep
And
that in mind.
we're already seeing the retail. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Marshalls we have already coming in, and Tractor Supply is relocating to a larger
Oh,
facility
yeah.
there.
More
And
centrally located
yeah,
too.
so
Yeah.
it's just there's other ones coming in also, and once they're ready to announce that they're going to be here, then the city will be making that announcement. And again, mentioned, it's just it's a process, and it takes time.
One of
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say patience.
Yeah,
it's just have
it's
patience.
coming. It's gonna happen. Yes, it is. But it's the idea that people are excited to see all these things,
Mhm.
and the curiosity of what's coming next. That's great to see too, right? Because there was a time when people didn't anticipate that something like this would happen, but now that it's there, it's like, you know what? We also need this.
Yeah.
And we also need
Oh.
that. Oh, okay. So
The biggest comment that I see, like, anytime we have a grand opening is like, when is Target coming? Mayor, can you tell us when Target's coming? You're like, no, I can't say anything. I don't know.
What I can say is we are in conversations with many franchises and individuals, and it's one of those where definitely don't want to get ahead of it, because
Right.
there's a lot of negotiations that happen as a result, incentives and this and that. And but once it's official, absolutely, we want to announce it. But before that, I'm leery about mentioning it.
Of course.
It's like, hey, you said this was going to happen and didn't. Well, so I'd much rather just
Right.
keep it. But yes, there are a lot more opportunities that are going to be here, and yes, once we're ready, we'll definitely make those announcements. And yes, there are rumors out there, and okay, part of it, that's fine. But it's exciting that people now and are anticipating, and are the curiosity that other things can happen here, which was not the case not too long ago.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know, I could not see or envision that could actually happen here. But now that it's happening, it's like, hey, you know what? Bring us a Target, or bring us a mall, or bring us like,
Yeah.
well, let's one step at a time.
Hold your
One step
horses.
at a time. We're gonna get there. Let's just. But again, it's wonderful to see that enthusiasm and excitement and the possibilities that are there, and that people are now accepting all these possibilities. That why not?
Right.
Which is a change in the paradigm thinking that it is possible.
Yeah.
It is happening. I'm seeing it with my own eyes. Which that old concept, I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember several people mentioning that to me. Okay, well, it's there. Okay,
Yeah.
so
You can see it.
you're seeing it every single day. Another brick is going up, and which on both sides, you're talking about the west side of town, the east side of town, and here centrally located as well. Which that's the other thing about historic appeal and the Main Street, naming that our Main Street is nationally recognized. 6 years running, or I get lost, I lose count on that one. But it's again to where we elevate the standard of excellence, and we are in that position where all our departments are going to move in that direction, where we excel at every level. And kudos to Main Street, kudos to our EDC, our boards that we have, planning and zoning, because they're dedicating, again, they're volunteering their time for these efforts,
Right.
and then working with the department heads and the staff and everyone. It's an effort that is in a sense, you're talking about multiple individuals in the process of making great things happen. And like I told you, I could be here all day long. So.
All right, well then we'll go ahead and.
Any other
this
question?
Will be a stopping point.
No,
Becky, you
I
have
mean-
any more questions or?
No, I think we've covered. We have a good. I want to say like foundation of what but I think that's the right word. Like we have
We
encompass a
have
lot of different
a
things.
great overview of
Yeah.
what's been going on for the city. So thank you for coming by, Mayor. Again, you're more than welcome to come back
Anytime.
anytime, and we can even expand on a particular topic.
Absolutely. I'll be more than glad to come back. And in fact, I'll come back when y'all are doing this live and in color.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Well,
we're getting there. You're getting
Oh,
there.
We're
I
gonna
will
get
be back.
there. We're
And
currently
then we'll have music and
Yeah.
like
A band on the side.
right.
Yeah.
you name it. Then okay, let's go.
We're currently building the plane as we fly it.
Yeah.
So
It's a process.
It's a
One thing
process.
at a
And I
time.
anticipate that happening. To where I can already see, having a nice little lounge chair, and then, kind of like the late show or late night
Right.
show.
The
Y'all
late
are
night
doing
show.
the whole late night show thing, and hey, why not, right? And
Yeah.
actually videotaping, people listening in. Hey,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you build, whatever we start, can the next day, how do we make it better? And then 6 months from then, or a year from then, and yes, I can see that happening. Y'all having a nice
I hope so.
late night here in Rio Grande City, and rah rah rah, awesome. Little
Mayor,
music
from your lips, like
I know, right?
right? Like that would be awesome. That's exactly where we're trying to grow, also. So
all right. Well, thank you, and thank you to all our listeners.
thank you.
Stay tuned next week for another episode, and we'll keep you posted on any news and updates. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and on Instagram,
Our socials.
the City of Rio Grande City, and also the Rio Grande City EDC. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Again, on behalf of the great city of Rio Grande City, God bless everyone.